What's up, Warriors fans? It's your man Max here for Warriors Latest. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you like what you hear, as I do post new Warriors videos daily. Now, over the last 24 hours, I've spent a lot of time thinking, all right, we're re-signing Kuminga whether he likes it or not. Whether it be the 2-year, $45 million deal, or he really bets on himself and takes the qualifying offer. Now, if he takes the qualifying offer, I kind of feel like he's limiting himself. Because you look at it, okay, you take the qualifying offer, you become a restricted free agent next year, and then what's out there? There's still not going to be a lot of teams with cap space to really give him that long-term deal that he wants. Now, he signs that 2-year, $45 million deal with that team option and sort of finds a way to give up that trade or that implied no trade clause. Maybe they move him, maybe they don't. But end of the day, I got to know if the Warriors have a plan. I believe they might have a plan for him should they bring him back instead of trading him. And they say right now they're not going to trade him, but I'm still on the fence. But I got to think, what is the outlook both with and without him? And now with him, as I said before, I don't see them winning a championship with him on the roster, but the more I think about it, there may be some possibility. Like, they may have a way to integrate him into the offense to the point where not only does he become a focal point, because let's look at the roster, like the starting lineup with him in it full time. All right, it's going to be Steph, it's going to be Jimmy, it's going to be JK, and it's going to be Draymond, and whoever's the center going to be. Now, I don't know if that center is going to be Al Horford once they get the Kuminga deal all situated, because Horford, again, is 39, but he does provide that spacing. And I wonder, this is something that I've thought about in the past day as I've I've seen your comments, I've talked to friends about the Warriors, and I wonder if Kuminga's if his problems that he's had on offense because of the spacing issues have been because the Warriors lack a lot of three-point shooters that they've had in the past. And I think that does really ring true to the sense, because they only have Buddy Hield and Steph Curry as reliable three-point shooters. We look at Moses Moody, we look at Pods, we look at Jimmy, we look at Draymond. They're not three-point shooters. Okay, and then after that, you bring in some three-point shooters on minimum deals. It's like, all right, maybe those spacing issues aren't going to be as big a deal if you bring in the right players. Let's say Quentin Post, who had a solid rookie year, starts to become more of a three-point shooter than he was last year. Say he starts hitting 35 to 40% from three. Yes, he's not going to be that guy that's going to get physical on the inside, but he creates that space for Kuminga to work. And all right, I could definitely see that happening, and it does make things interesting, at least for me as a Warriors fan. So I could see them doing something like that and then signing guys that help him flourish. And I do want to see that happen, but that all really depends on who they bring in. Now, as I've said before, they're going to sign Seth Curry. They have to sign Seth Curry. They already have that verbal agreement with Al Horford. And I do, again, think that's going to bring in bring in opportunities for Kuminga to flourish. Now, should he flourish? Okay, you see him say he takes that 2-year, $45 million deal, or even hopefully takes that 2-year, $45 million deal, and maybe they don't have that no trade clause. Things don't work out. All right, he at least finds ways to boost his value, go to a different team, and then re-enter unrestricted free agency either in 26 or better yet 27. Now, the big thing about Kuminga is, and I don't understand why he doesn't like the 2-year deal, is there's going to be a ton of teams with a lot of money in 2027. You see all these teams like the Lakers, the Warriors, and plenty of others. They're planning for 2027 to be that big year. They're looking to sign guys to help build the roster. And when you're going to good teams like the Lakers, they may be willing to throw more money at you than what you're worth. And on top of that, should Kuminga sign that 2-year deal, okay, he re-enters unrestricted free agency at the age of 25, still hasn't hit his prime yet, but is still has been able to develop as a player, playing with great players like Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond. So I do like that, but it's up to the Warriors to bring in the right players to help him develop. And I believe that Seth Curry and Al Horford are going to allow him to do that because they create that spacing. Now, I looked at his shot chart, and for Kuminga, he does like to attack the basket. He does like his mid-range, and being that close to the basket can hurt you in a motion offense that the Warriors like to run, but I see that how they can make adjustments to give him his shots that he needs, helping him get those buckets and really flourish as a player. But there are other players that are out there that I think the Warriors could go after since they're solid three-point shooters outside of Seth Curry and Al Horford. Like, as I've said, Amani Bates, he's a guy that allows them to develop a player while also getting a decent shooter from deep. Now, I'm not going to lie, Amani's play has mostly been in the G League, but I still see him as a guy who will allow Kuminga to flourish because he will at least play from a distance and give him that proper spacing. Now, on top of that, there aren't a lot of other free agents available, but maybe even a guy like Ben Simmons, as I've said before, bringing him in and not only allowing the defense to collapse on him when he attacks the basket, but say Ben Simmons is coming off the bench. Both Steph and Seth are sitting, getting their rest, and Simmons just attacks the basket, gives him that space. Kuminga, who doesn't shoot the three very well, but has a decent mid-range game, creates that space, and allows him to shoot a good mid-range jumper for two. So I do like the idea of that happening. And then even with, say, Seth's there, Kuminga attacks the basket, doesn't have a shot, dishes it out to Steph or Seth, or even Buddy Hield, okay, they have their three-point shot as well. So I do like that, and I do like the idea of, all right, you sign other guys that will help him flourish. Now, there is an interesting rumor that I heard in regards to Kuminga, even though the Warriors said they're not going to trade him. This rumored offer may be the one that gets the deal done. And it's an offer made by the Kings. Now, as I said the other day, the Kings don't want to offer an unprotected draft pick because they don't like the idea. And it's especially for a guy who's a bet, but they need other things involved if they're going to offer a first-round pick. And this trade, though, this really, I feel, moves the needle for the Warriors. And what's involved in the trade is it's DeMar DeRozan, who I personally like, and whose contract matches up with the Warriors' timeline. He becomes a free agent also at the end of the 26-27 season, so just creates a ton of cap space for that summer for the Warriors to completely rebuild should Draymond, Jimmy, and Steph retire. And then I'd say, yeah, DeRozan is likely going to retire because at that point he's 37. And when you're 37, unless you're LeBron, do you really want basketball to be the only thing you're known for? And me personally, I don't think he does. So I do see that as happening and a possibility. But for Devin, it's DeMar DeRozan, Devin Carter, the first-round pick for the Kings last year, a protected first-round pick from the Kings, as well as a second-round pick from the Kings. Now, in this proposal, it's the 2026 pick that's protected from the Kings, along with a unprotected second-round pick. Now, I don't think that protected pick is going to get the deal done. What I do think they should alter in that deal is change it to the 2027 draft when they do have 2 first-round picks. You offer instead of a protected first-round pick, because who knows, maybe next year the Kings crater, and then what happens? All right, you got that protection, but what happens if they don't get that protection in that draft pick? Does it become unprotected the year after? I don't know. What I'd like to see in this altered trade is All right, instead of a protected 2026 pick, you go for the least favorable of the two picks that the Kings have in 2027, and I think that's going to push them over the edge because the Kings right now, they're in a crossroad. They got a brand new coach in Doug Christie. They want to get younger, and after seeing the numbers for Zach LaVine, he's got a decent three-point shot. He shot over 40% from three last year, and that allows them to have that proper spacing. You look at their lineup, it's going to be Sabonis, it's going to be Keegan Murray, you have Kuminga at the 3, Zach LaVine at the 2, and then Dennis Schroeder at the 1. That's a solid lineup. I'm not even going to lie about that. And for the Kings, that's a lineup that's going to get you into the playoffs should everything go right. Now, I don't think everything's going to go wrong with that lineup. It's really on Doug Christie to bring them all together because I do think they have that all together is going to make a great Kings roster because they do need to get younger. The Kings have a lot of talent, but they don't have a lot of youth. And for a good playoff team, you need a good mix of experience and youth. Now with Kuminga and Keegan Murray, all right, you got two young guys in the starting lineup, and then you've got a bunch of seasoned vets. You got the likes of Schroeder, you got the likes of Zach LaVine, and Domantas Sabonis. So that works well, and it gives the Warriors what they want in a first-round pick, along with two rotation players. Now, people are going to be saying, "Oh, Max, they're not just giving up a first-round pick; they're giving up two first-round picks because Devin Carter was a first-round pick in the 2024 draft." And it's like, "Oh, you shouldn't just give up on a player that quickly." And I would say to that, they're not giving up on him; they're just acknowledging how weak that draft was. Like, we all know, everybody, like, the first two overall picks in that draft were Zachary, I can't even say his name, like Zachary Rosser, or let me get this up. Oh, sorry about that. Rissicher. I keep reading it as Zachary Rotisserie, and every time I see his name, it's like, oh, rotisserie chicken, and then Alexander Sarr. And I guarantee you there's going to be a time this season where Charles Barkley talks about the Hawks and talks about Zachary Rissicher and says, Zachary Rotisserie. It's like, and then he's going to say, damn, I'm in the mood for some rotisserie chicken right now. That would do good after this broadcast. I guarantee it. It's going to be just like when Charles was talking about Roy Huchimara, and he called him Roy Huchimama. That was just hilarious. But anyway, those two guys were forgettable. And remember, Steph Castle and Zach Edey were the only really good lottery pick players out of that draft. They made a good impact and really could get the job done. You could say Donovan Clingan could have been that guy, but he's just trapped in a bad situation in Portland because they look at it. They have three centers. They now have Hanson Yang, Robert Williams, as well as him. And it's going to be tough getting playing time, especially with Hanson Yang being looked at as a Joker-esque type of player who can really move the ball around, where Clingan is really a defensive-based center. He can get the job done being 7'2", and I think that's important. But I don't know. I don't think the situation in Portland is right for him. But I think this deal is going to be the one that gets it across the finish line should the rumors be true. But the bottom line is, for the Warriors, they need to show me and you and the rest of Dub Nation, that they have a plan with Kuminga. Because right now it's just been playing hardball all summer. And if you don't display that for your fans or display that for Kuminga, even if it's just a rumor, like, there are going to be problems going into the season because even Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, Moody, all of them, they got to know what they're getting into. And the fans got to know what they're getting into because we're a diehard fan base. And that's just a fact. Dub Nation has been a thing for years on end. And ever since the We Believe team, we're there every single night. Remember, it was us who really helped the Warriors get over that edge during those We Believe seasons. Remember, they dominated a 67-win Dallas Mavericks team that had just went to the finals the previous year and we're the number 1 seed. So they got to show us that they have a plan and aren't just being, well, to put, for lack of a better word, dicks to Jonathan Kuminga, because that's just not going to play well for the Warriors going into the season, and it's not going to play well for the Warriors when they have that plethora of cap space in the summer of 2027. So just show me that you have a plan, Joe Lacob. Show me you have a plan, Mike Dunleavy Jr., and get the job done with Kuminga, whether that be trading him to either the Suns or the Kings or re-signing him and showing him how they're going to perfectly integrate him into the offense and allow him to flourish. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you like what you heard today. And feel free to comment below with any ideas that you have for the Warriors to get better, as I love hearing your ideas and really thinking about them in the long-term effects of the Warriors' plans. And as always, go Dubs.